Yeah, so wanted to talk about this thing called legacy today. I think it's the notion of legacy is something a lot of men think about. It's just that we think about it, we don't talk about it. I think we work towards it. Um, and that's it. I think at the end of the day, every man wants to leave behind a good legacy, but like I say, I've been thinking about it lately, so I just wanted your all perspective on it. And it might get a little bit intrusive, but or more morbid, or not morbid. What's the term? Doomsday,
Mortality.
or yes, when we talk about or mortality and that kind of thing. What do you think, as it is right now? What do you think is your legacy? Or do you think you have a legacy? Is it something that you think you have, you don't have?
Well, for me, yes, I feel like all of us actually do have one because legacy, I look at legacy as tiers. Maybe let me not say tiers, but different sections. Um, you have family, family generational impact. You probably have um your work or achievement or whatever you contribute to society, and then you're looking at probably your character or the values you have. Another thing is wealth, what you leave back. So if I'm going to look at legacy, if I suppose to, this is a morbid part, if I supposed to pass tomorrow morning, um, I probably would say, well, I guess what would people remember me for? One, I would hope it would be my integrity. They know that I stand by what I say. My my kid, they would able to, I mean, my kid would be able to feel that people could speak highly of me where that is concerned. They'll know I'm not a perfect person in terms of the good that I've done, you know. These things are legacy, and again, also leaving behind something for maybe it's not as substantial as I probably would have wanted to be me if my life was cut short very early. But it's a good starting point for my kid, I mean, ultimately, I believe legacy is not only for your your offspring or your generations, but for other people who potentially look up to you. They could say, yeah, I admire this thing about this person. That he did that. That's his legacy. That's what he left behind. Um, so I feel we're all in a stage right now where we're building that. But I think maybe if we look at it as goals where we have a clear-cut vision or pathway of what we want to achieve, I think those are the inverse of the legacy that we leave behind, in a sense. So you achieve that. It's now the past, but it also is a reflection of what you did, and people can see that, your family can see that. Um, so that I guess that's how I look at it. You know, building currently building a company. You know, I personally want that company to be massive. Um, it might get massive if I pass, but the fact that I started it, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I never saw it through, but it was from the foundation or the inception that I birthed the company and somebody carried it on. That's a legacy. You know, I had a vision, somebody else continued the vision, whether it be my daughter, my brother, somebody who admire me, similar. So I guess that's how I look at it.
I don't know why the question of it feels so heavy emotionally. Like,
It
may
does.
I think,
It does.
no, no, like for real.
Because I think I think it's different when you think about it, but when you have to face it, when you're face to face with that question, it kind of is humbling. Kind of is humbling. It brings you to a reality where it's where you just you like you have to look at the good and the bad in this very moment. So it is, yeah.
It might seem trivial or um a bit of an exaggeration to say this. I might feel that way, but just like the reflection that it induces, it almost feel like I have a ball my throat, dog. Like just
Why?
wait. No, yeah. That why put that one there?
That your
But
legacy?
yeah, but I've thought about that for a while now, and my experience, I can say I don't necessarily look at it as a largely positive one when I think about what my legacy might be, because the context of my life has sort of been the story of potential versus actualization, and a bit of opportunity as well. And that is against the backdrop of a legacy that was sort of like a shadow that I was in, which is, that was Natu. I grew up, I never met Natu. Um, and so I grew up hearing a lot of things about this person, and the first thought I had about legacy was about continuing the legacy of someone I've never met, continuing the legacy of something I couldn't necessarily relate to, you know? And because I've sort of pivoted away from that, there is a bit of a tug of war between what I've left and what I'm trying to move towards and what I am right now. You see me? And the honest reflection of who I am right now, of where I am right now, is not something I can honestly say, or I look on with a lot of pride, because I see myself and I feel like I should be further along in this journey, that the and you typically weigh legacy against, how much time has passed and
And
how
how
much
much
time
time you have left?
you think you have left. And so there's a certain a compounding dread that happens when you sort of set yourself into this reality about day by day, like what do you do with what you have left, and will it be enough? You know, I find myself at a place where on some level I feel like perhaps I'm waiting, or not necessarily waiting, but I'm swinging for a grand slam, because in other words, I'm heaving a 3-point shot from half court, and we're down by 2 with a game on the line, and I have enough time to bring the ball up. I
Mhm.
think that is the context. I have enough time to bring the ball up, maybe even call a timeout, maybe even call a set play, but the anxiety of the time that's behind me and the expectation of the time that's ahead of me makes me feel like, all right, you know what? I have to heave a shot right now. Even if realistically speaking, I still have some time to figure out what that legacy might be, you know?
Don't give it to LeBron.
Yeah.
If you feel like you don't have much time, just don't give it to LeBron.
Game
That's
on
a
the line,
that's that's a side
the
that's
ball
a
are going to goal hand.
that's it's a side
Game
note. But I mean, there are a lot of points. There's a lot of
where's the or him to say,
I said that was very deep a while ago, I felt it.
no. It's some serious points. Your why for that, Rimsey? But some serious points you raised a while ago. That
let me. Sorry for cutting you, Steph. Just
Mm.
so you feel like you run out of time.
It's in short, yeah. I guess you could say that. In short,
How old are you now, too?
33.
That's a that's a very that age, that number, the big man, the dead at 33, That's what the Bible
Hmm?
says. I think they
Yeah,
said
man.
Jesus died at 33.
Yeah, around 33.
And also I remember they said men's life changed somewhere around 33.
Yeah, man. That's
You
the
you
when you
think
start
that
to get
you're
into the
running
contemplative stage.
you think that you're running up. I mean, I just asking because I'm just asking. So sorry for being intrusive. I know this is
No man,
problematic.
no, it's
But
cool,
but
man.
but
It's
yeah,
cool.
you feel like you're running out of time because of what we've seen around us. Younger people than us have probably achieved greater milestones than what we have, or like, why is it that you feel that way? Because the reason I ask is because I have also kind of had that feeling at some point, and for me, I had to like quick reset, and I remember that my timing kind of different than everybody else's timing.
Yeah,
So that's why I asked, because when you say you feel like you're running out of time, I mean, you still have a whole, I mean, hopefully 40 to 50 or more years left of life.
yeah,
And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm not old, but I know that a lot can happen in 6 months. A lot can happen in a year. Like some, we take it for granted, but your entire life, for better or for worse, but your entire life can fast forward like tremendously within a year. So that's really why I asked why you feel like that.
yeah. I think there is some component that is rooted in comparison, and it's not necessarily active comparison. It's not like I'm sitting down and I'm looking at a particular person's life and saying, why am I not here? You know, but you, I get the sense that I lose some amount of context, especially in moments where I feel anxious about the future, and I feel anxious about the things I want to accomplish, and I'm not necessarily seeing how. And something that I sort of go back to is in conversations Steph and I have had. Steph, you remember this? Like we've said, if you want $1 million, there is only one way to make $1 million, and it's $1 at a time. You cannot. $1 million doesn't exist. $1 million is 1 million of $1. Is it me? A million worth of dollars. And when you are in a place where you look at the time that's gone, and you look at just a general sense of what people your age is doing, starting a family, having a nice home. And I don't mean like extravagant. I just mean like a bare minimum, because a part of what's happening is that we are in a generation where home ownership is increasingly difficult. It's a lot more stressful to even approach that. Um, the opportunities are thinning because eh, most people may not necessarily see it, but we are in a bit of a shift between this general workforce and the pervasiveness of AI, and just a general greed that people are just hoarding, and the more they hoard, the less you have access to. And so when I think about those things, and I look at just even my family, I look at my mother, and one of the things they may not see it, but some days you get up and you see them and you say, oh, that wrinkle wasn't there yesterday. Her face looked younger, a month ago. And you look at those things and how age sort of creeps up, and then you think about the kind of life or the quality of life that you might want them to have the older they get. Not just her, but other relatives and stuff. And then you almost feel like that's your responsibility, even if that's not a realistic position to take. So I feel like I'm behind in the context of those things, like, how do I get from here to covering that gap, essentially?
I mean, but a lot of those things that we use to measure where we think we should be at a certain point is artificial. Like a lot of these things are man-made. A lot of these things are artificial and have no real bearing on your worth or your value. I mean, I know that we can always say that, but the moment we come off of this call, it's like you take the what we call the blue pill, and then it just go back. But still, I think it's a constant reminder that a lot of these things are artificial, and sometimes we want to achieve these things just because of ego, not because of legacy, right? A lot of people want to achieve or check boxes just to say they have done so, not because they feel like it's going to be part of their legacy. If you understand what I'm saying. Like, there are a lot of people who just want to say it so they can post about it, hype on somebody else, just show that them have it. But beyond that very shallow notion, it's not about, all right, this thing that I've acquired, how is that going to improve the next generation? Or how is that going to, like you say, help your moms? Like, what is it that you want? What is it, and why did you want to achieve those things? So I feel like life is a constant sifting of, why do I want to get these things? Is it because of legacy, or is it just to say that I have acquired these things? And I think it is important to make those designations, because if you strip away a lot of those things, or even not even strip away, at the end of your life, nobody is going to do a life audit to say you achieved this at 33 versus Rimsey, who achieved this at 25, versus me, who achieved that at 45. Nobody is going to take you understand me? Like, when they say the majority of billionaires don't become billionaires until 50, right? But I mean, at your age now or younger, somebody might be striving to become a billionaire in this very moment. And if you achieve it, that's fine, right? But that shouldn't be, you think the person who hit billionaire status at 50, I said, Jano, can't believe me take so long for hit billionaire status at 50. It's going to be, all right, me a billionaire, now, so how me can live my life, And I think when legacy comes in is, all right, I did it at 50. How can I help the next generation do it at 25, or the generation after that, to be born into it? And that's how I see it. If I have to think about my legacy, I have to think about education. Like, my family and everyone I interact with should be more educated after they interact with me. Not schooled, educated. Education is about how you survive and thrive in your environment. That's what education is. It's not going to school, it's not going to college. So if I could give someone a blueprint and leave with them the tools to make it faster in life, or navigate this life a little bit easier and a little bit quicker, then that's all I want to leave, right? I know some people say it's about positive impact and all of those things. I don't see it as that, because quite frankly, your legacy, as much as we would like to control it, your legacy will never be all positive. You have some people who naggle like you, and that is part of your legacy. You have some people say you treat them bad. You have some people say, you'll have people who say all of these things. And if everybody who you've interacted with could have attended your funeral, no two people would say the same thing, right? And that is part of your legacy. So when I think about my legacy, I want it to be a rumor. People will say, well, say him like a harsh, but at least me learn this from him. Or me know say him probably treat me bad this time, but at least I learned this from him. Or this is what I took away. I think ultimately, beyond the material and all of those things, ultimately that's what I feel that I would want my legacy to be. But when it comes to the things that I want to achieve, I think I threw away timelines, probably late 20s, early 30s as well, because again, it was like I wanted to achieve certain things just to say I achieved certain things. But I've moved now to, all right, this thing that I've achieved, how is this going to help someone else? Because to be honest, I don't need much, I don't need much in life. So this thing that I've acquired or this thing that I've achieved, how is this going to help someone else? And when I say someone else, I'm talking about the people I love, care for, or care about, respect, or even just the interaction, right? The when I decided to do my PhD, I knew for a fact that, I mean, you can't give your next generation a PhD. But if a family member can look and say, all right, he is the first person in the family, cousin or whoever, at least we know one person in the family who has a PhD, so that they can decide if they want to do it or not. But they have a reference, right? And I think that opening of possibility makes it a lot easier for the next generation. And you can say that for any career, any profession, all of those things. And also, to be fair and to be frank, nobody from my community or my space ever dreamed of, much less thought about getting something like a PhD, because it did not apply, or they did not see it as valid. So again, if at least one person they could see or know has something like that, they can decide if they want to go that route, if they choose to or not. But at least they know somebody, because I think life is about what you think is possible. If you say you want to start a business and everybody around you chuckle and say that no make no sense, it's because they've never seen the possibilities so close for them to say, all right, this is a blueprint or a reference point,
I think there's a component of legacy that has to do with carrying the hopes of the people you love. Sometimes the people you care about, the relationships you have, sometimes based on honest reflection and just a bit of introspection, people see the things that they aren't necessarily capable of, that they might have liked to achieve. And they see that you not only have the aptitude, but you also have some amount of time to do it. And so they invest these hopes in you. They say, all right. And it's not a case where they feel entitled to your time, or they feel entitled to the direction in which you want to take your life. But I feel like it's a part of the sharing dynamic in relationship, where you give something to people and they take something from you, and vice versa. And so even stuff like in your case, just for argument's sake, like if you never had the intention of getting a PhD, but then there's somebody who, your pops or your brother or anybody, there's somebody who says, yo, like, you are this close. Like, I don't think I will ever get to this level, but you are this close. Go all the way. There's a component of that underpins legacy in a much broader sense. So sometimes people are doing it because they want to say, I've done it. Or sometimes they're also doing it because they're saying, this person believed that I could get here.